Ryan and I both find Danish curling really fascinating because it's done quite well for the size of its federation. You normally tend to qualify for the Olympics, and obviously not every time and in every discipline, but there's normally a Danish team in the Olympics.
Mhm.
Your women's team won the first silver medal back in 1998. But there's also times where Danish curling has fallen down to the sea pool in European curling as well. So
Mhm.
obviously there's an interesting story there about a kind of a small country that kind of can do very well, but it's also sometimes in a bit of a precarious situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and might I even add, in 1998, as you mentioned before, we won the first this silver medal, and actually it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the only medal that Denmark has ever won at the Winter Olympics.
And
So
so
yeah. Mm?
so I was in Canada at the time when I
Ah.
remember the match very well because it was against Sandra Schmirler, and it was the first time a Canadian team won a gold medal. So it was a big deal in Canada too.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time the announcers in Canada said that Denmark did not have any curling rinks. So I'm not sure if that was true. You certainly have some rinks now, but so can you just tell us the history of curling rinks in Denmark then?
Yeah, I think it's actually true. At that point, we did not have curling rinks in Denmark. Everybody, all curling clubs, they had to share the ice with ice hockey or skaters. And well, for everybody who has played on ice hockey ice, they know it's not the same as playing in a dedicated curling ice rink. So, so afterwards, actually, we have had four curling rinks, dedicated curling rinks in Denmark, and actually we're going to have another one in the end of this year. We are going to have another one in the central Copenhagen, central Denmark, in Odense. It's called. There's a little club there, and they have actually found the economy and are going to build a rink. I'm actually going there on the 22nd of January, to the construction site. We're going to build this. There's going to be a little reception, um, to just mark that now this the building of this ice rink is going to happen. So we look very much forward to that. The fifth ice rink in Denmark.
So, what are the greatest challenges that you face in growing the game in Denmark? When we interviewed Mods, he said there's a perception in Denmark, and I think in a lot of places, that curling isn't the
Mm.
most physically demanding sport, and it's a bit looked down on to a certain extent. But you've also said that you have a bit of prestige from your kind of Olympic success. So,
Mm.
what has the federation done to kind of address these kinds of challenges?
Yeah, I think Mass is absolutely right. Um, I can hear it myself sometimes when I meet people, new people, and I say I curl. Well, then they look a bit skeptical at me and say, "Well, is that really a sport? Is that is that really something that you want to tell people that you do?" And of course, I think it's the same here, that we have not been good enough to actually tell what is curling, to tell how demanding is it actually. We can see it when the club when clubs host guest events, when everyday people who just heard about curling, they decide to come with their friends and family and say, okay, let's try to play curling. We put an instructor to them and we say, this is how it's done. They ask, whoa, this is difficult. First of all, it's very difficult and it's hard. You need to concentrate for a very long time. We say, yes, and that's not what you see on the telly. On the telly, you just see maybe four people just throwing rocks down a sheet of ice. How difficult can that be? Because they don't understand what's behind the game. They don't understand the strategy. And we haven't been good enough to actually tell that, to tell what is behind this game. Why is it that we find it so good, and why is it that it's so hard to win medals? So I think we have decided to be better to communicate this and to bring stories to life about curling players. Of course, we do love the story about Matilde, who who started the same year as I, and after only 4 years, she was at the Olympics. It's a great story about a great player, but unfortunately, it also tells some people that you can just start to curl if you want to be at the Olympics. It's just 4 years, and then you're good to go. How difficult can that be? So we need to communicate very clearly about what is the sport, what does it require, and still at the same time, and that's the difficult part, at the same time tell it's a game that everybody can participate in. You don't need to be able to run 10 miles in half an hour. That's not necessary to play curling. It's a great game, a lot of fun, and you can play it, well, even if you're in a wheelchair.
Yeah, so the local club here, they're very good at bringing in new players. And I think most of the clubs in Denmark are, because we're interested in getting more players into the sport.
What are some of the things that they do well that you think brings in new players?
I think the social aspect of the clubs in Denmark is, in Denmark, curling is a very social sport. We have, I think, all the clubs in Denmark have their own like club level for fun tournament with some cash money prizes for the top teams, but a lot of players just come to play these for the fun of it. And I think that's the main reason that curling is a good sport in Denmark, because it's very social here. It's not as competitive as it is in, for example, Canada, where you only see the top teams. You never see like the low level curlers until they get to that top level